Hi everyone, this is the last lecture of the semester, and in this lecture I'm going to go over some key topics for the final exam and the final exam process, which you should have already started. Your final essays, essay 4, are due tonight by 11:59 p.m. and then once that's done you'll have Tuesday and I believe Wednesday and Thursday to complete the final few assignments that are coming up. So I wanted to go over those things on Moodle with you and make sure that we're all on the same page as the semester concludes, because once those assignments have been submitted, I'll start compiling your final grades and get that information uh, into Banner for you. So we're here on our home page and we're going to go down to the final exam module here and click on it. Now once you're in here, you notice I have a whole bunch of information on how grading works. I am not permitted by the university, the state, and the federal government to release your full final grade to you via email, and we know that the Moodle system, Moodle gradebook system, doesn't accurately reflect the averages that the college requires us to use, the department requires us to use. So what I've done here is I've explained in depth as I can the way I calculate grades and how all of that's going to affect you, and gave you some models so you can calculate roughly what you think your grades might be. Now at the end of the semester I'm going to, after I calculate all these grades, and I usually triple check them, but inevitably I'm human and I'm not a mathematician, I sometimes make errors. If you think that there's a serious error, you can email Dr. Rita Costello, who's the Director of Freshman and Sophomore English over at McNeese. Her emails are costello@mcneese.edu, and she will get in contact with me to contact you, because after the 9th I will most likely not be checking this Moodle account or my McNeese email for the duration of the summer unless something significant comes up. Um, I typically take that time and just focus on my other employment, or take some time off, as I'm sure many of you will be doing as well. So if you need to get in touch with me, that'll be the best way to get in touch with me, and then we can go through this process. But she'll have all of my documents with all of my calculated grades, so she can see all the calculations. And all this is available for you to see how to calculate this yourself. But again, I can't release this information via Moodle or email. So now you have these basic assignments too. You have a portfolio review assignment where you're going to need to take your textbook, your composition and rhetoric textbook, and you'll take, I think I've already taken mine out of here so that I could make copies of it. But in here on page 76 and 77, you have your portfolio review, and it's got two parts. The first part is a review. Actually, mine's still in here. Two parts. The first part is these questions that you need to answer about your work as a researcher, as a reader, and as a writer this semester. And honesty about your process is probably the best thing that you can do here, and really focusing on your process. There are some difficulties, as we've talked about all semester long in the discussion forums, of taking an online class. Some of the communication is difficult. There's often misunderstandings. These are things that don't need to be brought up in the portfolio review. What you really need to focus on is your writing process. How did you use the resources that are available to you? Did you use the writer's resource textbook that has all the citation methods? Have you used the CompRet guide? Have you used the advice that I posted in the near daily comments I made all the way through the first half of the semester? What have you used? What have you done the focus is on your own work, okay? So you're going to actually type the answers to these questions into a separate Word document, since you would not be able to handwrite them, obviously. And so you'll do these 17 questions and type the answers to that. And then after you've done that, you'll need to retake the grammar and mechanics skill diagnostic, which is the second item here. I've given you a little more time, 55 minutes. It's due by Thursday at 11:59 p.m. You'll need to go in and take this quiz. You have as many attempts, or you have a couple attempts to do that. Each quiz is 55 minutes, and this is going towards your final exam grade. It really comes to about 5% of your final grade, so it's worth a lot more than the first one you took, which gets filtered into participation and kind of watered down. This one's worth a lot more, so really take your time with it within those 55 minutes. Don't rush through it, please. Now, the next thing after you have completed that is portfolio review assignment 2, where you'll go in, and part 2 on this handout gives you, you can see it down there in our little video. Part 2 on page 77 asks you the question to ask you to write, based on your portfolio and your answers to the questions in part 1, write a 200 to 300 word reflection on your semester as a writer and researcher. You will not use all of your answers to the above questions. Good writing selects the most important elements and develops them well. Be sure to address your strengths as well as weaknesses. Also be as specific as possible. Use examples from specific essays, which I've given you a lot of comments on your essays so you can talk about those things. Paragraphs, research moments, etc. When was a moment you struggled with research? A lot of students struggle with academic search complete and just give up, which, as I talked about in an earlier lecture video, is really a bad policy. You need to stay focused and keep working on it. So this is really talking about your growth as a writer. Now, I want you to think about this in terms of the fact that somebody else is going to see this, because if you are at a D or around that range after the exam, we're going to take a look at this. Another faculty member is going to take a look at this, and they're going to see what your thoughts are and what's happened and what your investment is, and we might be able to get you up to a C. I think that's the highest the portfolio review process will allow us to do. Speaking of that, you have a third element in the portfolio review process. Now, portfolio review 1 and 2, those assignments are required of every single one of you that are in the course. Portfolio review assignment 3 is not. And what this is a revision of each of these papers, an in-depth revision using the guidelines, the lecture videos, the notes, that sort of thing. You can go by the Writing Center, the Right to Excellence Center, and get some help on some of them. And I've marked what each of these are, and I want you to save those into a single docx format and have them there so that we have them as documentation to show that you've done some revision work and thought about those things if you want your grade to go up. Now, last week I did a video or a note on some of this review stuff, and I made a handout for you to review, and that's there for you, so that's a resource. Now we come to the final exam essay. In here you have this prompt. Read the attached sources and develop a logical argument about political candidates' governing experience. Okay, so something very clear here. Governing experience refers to the amount of time that they have spent in a position of authority that is comparable to the sort of authority that a president might have or that these candidates might have. So if it's people running for governor per se, like the governorship campaign that just occurred in Louisiana with David Vitter and John Bell Edwards, how much time has had each man spent in a situation with a similar amount of requirements of government, of governing experience? And there's some details on there that follow this. You know, things like campaigns often attack each other based on who is more experienced, with the idea that previous governing experience makes a candidate more qualified for office. However, we also have situations where candidates argue a different type of experience, such as managing a company. I think you can see where some of this is going and what it's referring to is better than previous governing experience. While people may judge candidates by other factors such as personality, ethical character, relatability, or financial success, a candidate's previous experience or lack of experience is always important to political campaigns. And then the author of this prompt goes on to say, you may approach the topic from any angle, but must be able to support your position with the sources provided. So the sources provided, when you open up this assignment, you'll actually see, you got to click on it, you'll see that there are 8 PDFs. These are different articles, different sources, and you'll have to use information, data in those sources to support whatever your thesis is. Okay, so once you've done that, it's, as it says here, it is critical, regardless of the approach and position, that you argue your assertion logically. The key is logic. Use reason, not emotion, to convince the audience of your position. So the sources are attached. You have to incorporate information from at least 3 of these sources. So even though there's 8, the minimum are 3. And at least one of these sources must be scholarly. So that means you need to go back and review exactly what a scholarly article is. In that library unit, you should still be able to access some of those tutorials. So carefully review what constitutes a scholarly source. There's some information again in our friendly CompRed guide. And you can see which of these might not be scholarly. And these are the things I'm looking for right here that I just highlighted. Ability to write an original, well-organized, sufficiently developed essay, including an argumentative thesis statement that addresses the prompt. Awareness of a general academic audience, that means they're educated, they're reading on a 12th grade level or higher. I'm looking to see that you understand the articles that are provided, that you can construct grammatically correct sentences, that you can quote and paraphrase correctly. We've gone over that. There's videos that talk about that in each module. Mastery of proper MLA format, an ability to construct a paper, proper works cited page. Now, these essays I'm not going to comment on extensively. In fact, I probably won't say much at all about these essays since the grading of them will probably take right up until the final day of classes, and I don't believe you still have access to this Moodle class following the last class day. And plus, at this point, those comments might not make much of a difference in your future writing. The key here is that I think at this point most of you are already well aware of your weaknesses and your strengths. We're pretty good at evaluating that sort of thing, and that's what the portfolio review process is all about. So you can start planning and thinking about what you need to do to continue to improve as an academic writer, because this is something that doesn't end with English 102. It's something that continues throughout your academic career. In fact, even now, I've been doing this for over a decade, teaching in some way or another, and writing, teaching about writing and writing myself. There's always things I need to work on, things I'm learning, and that's a big part of my process. So I want you to also remember that we're all still learning. That's the key to the process. So there's some other details here that talks about the GMSA. You'll submit to here, add submission. You notice there's not really a time limit. It's due on Thursday, May 5th by 11:55 p.m. There's not a way to set it for 11:59. However, it is expected that it doesn't take you longer than 2 to 3 hours to write this essay. So you may want to do your pre-writing ahead of time so you really can get this done and submitted correctly. I'll be checking email periodically over the next few days. Obviously, I'll start grading in earnest tomorrow your classwork. I have 7 other classes I'll be grading for as well. But I'll start grading in earnest, and hopefully you'll have a sort of a clear idea of what your average is before the final exam. But I wish you the best of luck. It's been a good semester. I think we had a bit of a rough patch at the beginning, but over time, those of you that stuck with it really have grown a lot, and I appreciate that growth, and I appreciate you sticking with the class. It's been a good experience. So I wish you the best on the exam and as you finish the semester, your other exams. And I wish you the best in your future as academic writers. That's all I have. That's it. So if we don't talk via email again this semester, have a good summer, and maybe I'll see you on McNeese campus sometime in the future.